have lots of questions about Denmark. I know you're living there. So, Lucia, before starting the podcast, could you please introduce briefly yourself? Where are you? What are you doing? And then I can dig into more questions. And thank you for accepting my invitation. We really appreciate it.
Of course. So my name is Lucia, as you know, and I am a Spanish student that moved to Denmark to do her studies. I'm I just graduated from my degree in pharmaceutical engineering. I think one of the cool things about myself is that I have lived in a few different countries. I'm Spanish, but I have lived in the States, in Norway, and now I moved here. And I don't know what
Interesting.
else to talk. I have worked in a few different things. I've participated in a startup, which is very cool, and it's really big thing here, startups in Denmark, and that's all I can think
So
about.
that so you have lived in United States
Yeah,
and Norway, and now you are in Denmark. So let's back to the US first. When did you live in the US, and what was the goal of it? Were you studying here or were you working?
yeah. I came there for a couple of summers to learn English when I was a teenager. So when I was 14 and when I was 15, I lived one summer in Virginia and one summer in Massachusetts.
Great states to be. How was your experience?
I think it was quite nice. I was a bit younger then, so it's not the same to move abroad when you're older than when you're younger, and you move to a family, and it's very nice because you're really welcome and you're really protected in a way. And I think it was really different. I think I was very lucky in both families because they were both really just delightful. But I remember it was like a completely different thing because when I was in Virginia, it was like I was in the middle of the forest, and it was a completely different experience, I think.
Virginia is really beautiful. I've been there around Arlington, Alexandria, the places close to DC. It's a really beautiful place. Virginia is really great. So after being in the US for 2 summers, you moved to which country? Norway directly, or you went back to your...
I went to Spain to do my bachelor's. I did it in my home city, and then I went as an exchange student to Norway, and then I went to Spain, and then I went to Denmark.
Okay, that's honestly, you have a lot of great experiences because I'm curious about all these countries, Spain, Norway. You mostly did your studies in Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, and you're from Spain. There are, people say there are huge differences between the lifestyle in countries like Spain in comparison to the Denmark, Norway, Sweden. Can you tell us more about the differences you've seen during this experiences you had?
Yeah. So one of the things that was most striking for me is that in Scandinavia, like all of the students are very independent. So when I studied in Spain, everyone was living with their parents and was only focused on studying and had a very established pipeline of what they were going to do. And in Scandinavia it's all the opposite. So every student moves out of their parents' house at 18, starts working while they're studying, has a lot of freedom to figure out themselves in a way. So you have to figure out what you want to study in a different way. You have a lot of freedom to choose any subject that you want. You figure out what you want to work at, and in a way it demotes a lot of responsibility because you have a lot of things to figure out, but it's also quite it really shows in the people that they have been adults in a way for a long time.
Okay, interesting. So in case of the cost of living, how was that different for you? I
Cost of
know
living.
Scandinavia is super expensive, right?
Yeah, I would say yes, it is more expensive, but I would say it's still worth it. So I live in Denmark, which is especially fortunate case, because even though living is more expensive, like I made the math, and it's still cheaper than many places because education is free. So that's in and of itself a lot of money that you save. And what is most striking is students here are being paid monthly to study. So all Danish students receive an allowance that covers. It doesn't cover everything, but it covers all your basic living expenses. You can find cheap rent and food for that price every month, so you can focus more on your studies, and it gives people the freedom to study if they want, which I think is quite great.
Right. And you mentioned you was an exchange program student, right? From Spain to Norway.
Yeah, I was an exchange in Norway. So I was part of this program that's very popular in Europe, that's called Erasmus. And basically, what it consists is that universities all across Europe exchange some students all around, and they make it quite easy to transfer the subjects around, and they give you a little bit of an allowance to facilitate your life there.
Interesting. So then you went to Norway, and after that you back to Spain again, and then you moved to Denmark. So what was the reason you picked Denmark?
There were a lot of reasons. Like, first reason I would say is I really liked my experience in Norway, and I wanted to keep going in this Scandinavian lifestyle, which I thought it was really. I liked the independence, and I liked how calm it was, so I wanted to go somewhere around. But I applied to many universities, and I had many different choices. But I thought Denmark was quite nice because, first of all, economically is quite nice with all of the things that I was telling about having allowances, etc. And it's also, I'm studying pharmaceutical sciences, and there's very few places in Europe that are as attractive to for pharmaceutical sciences as Denmark. In case you didn't know this, but Novo Nordisk's, which is like the biggest one of the biggest pharmaceutical producers, this is the one behind Wegovy and a lot of insulin drugs. They have their headquarters here in Denmark, and they promote a lot of things here. So it's quite a great place to be because there's a lot of opportunities all around. And I thought, if you want to think of a place to live and not just study, this is a great place. And even if you just want to study, it's great to be surrounded by so many things.
That's true. So you went for your master to Denmark, right?
Yeah.
And now you graduated.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the next plan? Now you're going into industry, or you're gonna start PhD life?
I'm not sure. As I was telling you, I graduated like a week ago, so I haven't fully decided. I have a couple ideas in mind, but I cannot share at the moment.
Okay. Congratulations, by the way, for your
Thank you.
graduation. So, Lucia, how did you deal with the weather in Scandinavia? It's not cold.
The weather is challenging. I'm going to be honest. And I would say it's more challenging than I ever thought, because I remember I lived in Norway first, and I thought, okay, I can live with this. It's like it's cold and it's dark, but there's a lot of snow and everything's pretty, and you have these beautiful sunsets. And I thought, cannot get worse than this, and this is nice. And then I remember I was talking with a few people before moving to Denmark, and they said, "Beware, the weather here is horrible." And I said, "It cannot be that bad." It could be that bad. You just get used to it. It rains all the time, but you get used to always wearing rain pants, rain jacket, rain protection for your backpack, rain everything. And it's, I would say the worst part is the way Denmark's organized. You have to bike everywhere. So if it rains, you still bike.
Oh,
But once you get used to it, you just do it.
okay. The public transportation is just bicycle, kinda.
Yeah, I would say it's because my university is quite far from the city center, so it's not as well communicated. And and on top of that, it's quite expensive. So if you want to save some money, you just get a bike.
I see. So how people are different in case of the hobby they have, the outdoor activities they usually have from your country, Spain, and the Scandinavian countries. I know it's hard to have outdoor activities except for skiing or something, which is snow related stuff, right? How is that different?
I think there's less ski than you would think here, but I think I'm a bit of an outlier in that case because I've always done the same hobby, so I have a very limited sample. Um, but I would say one of the things that I notice most is that in Spain, it's very common that even if you don't have a lot of hobbies, you go out a lot with your friends all year round, right? Um, and you can just go for like a couple hours to go for a walk or to go take one beer, and that's it, and that's enough. And I would say here people are really different between the summer and the winter, because in the winter you can't do many things outside, right? So in the winter I would say you need to figure out how to make friends so that you can get invited to things, because otherwise it's very difficult. And in the summer, it's like life is everywhere. Everyone has 1,000 different hobbies. Everyone goes out. Everyone goes on 1,000 different parties, trips, everything.
That's true. So, Lucia, I am also excited to know more about the projects and the major you studied for your master. Can you tell us a brief explanation about your major and the project, if you had any, for your master, that students also can know more about your background?
So studies here work a bit different than the States. So I don't really know a lot about major or minor because it doesn't work like that here. But basically, in my university, what you do is you can choose a program. My program is called Pharmaceutical Design and Engineering. And there you have a very few subjects that are obligatory, and then you have a lot of freedom to choose whatever you want. And whatever you want is, if you want to take credits of a subject that's for, I don't know, wind engineering, you can take it if you want. Anything counts. And so you can specialize virtually in anything you want. I chose to specialize mostly in biopharmaceuticals, and then I did a few projects in that direction. So I did a project with a startup and doing their in vitro tests and developing a lot of pipelines for their cultures, etc. And then I did another project on liver, so to focus especially on gene therapy and things like that, because that's what I wanted to focus on. And then I did my master thesis on stem cell differentiation and focused also on gene therapy. So I would say it's not like there's a specific tracks that you can follow and you can choose between three, but it's more like you can choose your own track. So a lot of these projects that I was mentioning, it's more of a, you talk with the professor and you decide what you want to do a project in, and it's kind of like you decide what topics you want to study, and you find someone that will teach you that. So I would say that's quite different from any other place I've been in.
Interesting. So what do you think is the hardest and the most challenging thing about doing master?
I'd say, as an international student, for me the hardest thing was to actually figure out their system, because there's a lot of things that are different, and I was not used to, for example, having to find a job while I'm studying, or having to figure out like what teacher should I talk about to get an internship in this. It depends on the person. There's a lot of people that would say this subject was super hard. I think for me, at least, the hardest part is the fact that you have to figure out a completely different system than yours. But if you get a good support system, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I totally agree. As an international student in the US, I can definitely feel how you feel with that. So, Lucia, how about the language stuff? The more Danish people can understand, can speak English well. How did really? So
Yes.
you don't have any issues with communication?
No, I would say Danish people appreciate if you learn Danish, but they don't expect it. So I would say Denmark is quite a small country, and there's a lot of international people, because there's a lot of industry demand for people, and so there's a lot of immigrants from all across Europe and even outside of Europe. So in that sense, it creates a very different environment. All of my studies have been in English, and I have never had any problems with it. And I know a lot of people that haven't learned any Danish because they say I haven't needed it at all during my time here. I would say, of course, if you're in a country and you want to really adapt, it's nice to learn the language, but it's also difficult, and you have a lot of things in the mind, and of course you need to have everything done.
Okay, that's interesting. If people in Denmark can communicate well in English, that's great, I think. Because English sometimes can be challenging, especially in the countries who are not first language English. It's gonna be a little bit challenging, and you have to, like countries like Germany that you're going to leave, you need somehow to learn German, Dutch, and that's a bit challenging for students who are moving there. And so that's nice. If you Let me ask one interesting question. If you had a unlimited funding in your major, what project or what kind of problem would you like to solve? Since you're working on drug delivery, which is really cool, and I know.
Can't even think about something more expensive than my master thesis. I worked on a lot of stem cell differentiation, which is super expensive because all of the media is super expensive. And I also did some gene editing. So I would say if I had more money, what I would have done is better testing of the things I have done. So, for example, we considered at the beginning doing some single cell RNA sequencing and some specific experiments, and maybe I would have done more replicas of the experiments that I was doing, but just the limitation was everything was already so expensive. But it was such an interesting project in the sense of it's stem cell, differentiation of stem cells is really beautiful because you get to see all these transformations, and it's for some tissues is a really rather novel field that's still being established. And I would have loved to have both more funds and more time to really dive deep in that. And if I had more money, I would also test so much more in the gene therapy aspect. So being able to test more on the different tissues that we were testing, and maybe further on the line being able to test it on different models. But I would say I was so lucky with my project. I cannot think of a better one.
I see. So do you think as a person have experience of working collaborating with the startups, do you think students getting enough practical real world experiences alongside their study in universities?
I think it's really different depending on where you study. If you ask me about Spain, I would say no. I did my bachelor's in Spain and it was super challenging, and I learned so much theoretically. But I remember when I moved to Denmark that I felt like I didn't know how to apply it at all in the real world, and it just felt like it was very disconnected from what I was being asked in order to participate in the industry and get a job. So, in that sense, I felt like there's aspects that could be improved. But in Denmark, I think it's very different. You During my studies, I had a lot of people from different pharmaceutical companies and different biotech companies coming into the class to actually teach us and teach us what they would like us to know, which is very nice. But there's still an element that you have to get yourself out there. So if you want to learn how things are done in a startup or in an industry, there's nothing better than to try to contact someone and try to actually participate there. I would say you have a lot of theoretical knowledge, which is super useful and super nice, uh, but there's no substitute as to just working.
That's great to know. So what was the hardest course you had in Denmark? Was it more practical or was it more theoretical?
I'd say for me, specifically for me, the hardest course that I took was a course in design of experiments and statistics, because it was very different to the approach I was used to having. So I think for most of my studies, I was being very focused on like the molecular biology and the science, and they teach you how to do experiments in the sense that they teach you how to perform whatever experiment that is that you're doing. It was very different approach to think of which experiments you should run, which variables you're supposed to study, what is most important, what happens if you don't have all the money in the world to test all of them, which should you prioritize, how you get most information out of this data. And I think I felt like I would have loved to learn more, but it was just already back in my brain.
I know it can be challenging. So, Lucia, how do you see the role of AI in your field? Do you use it or?
A lot of people are very scared on AI stealing all of our jobs, but I think for my field at least, I think one of the things that affects most is that it is so, in a way, so inefficient, because you to study one drug you need so much funding, so much, and a lot of the drugs fail, and it is a really profitable area and a lot of people could benefit from it. So I think if you found ways to make it more efficient, you wouldn't find that there's less jobs, but the opposite, you would increase the industry, because now there would be openings in so many different fields that you didn't even consider. So you could use AI to make some processes more efficient and to get different ideas. And then you would still need a lot of people to evaluate all of this. And you still need someone to supervise what AI is doing. You can't be so scared that there's some jobs that are going to be out, that you fail on an opportunity, because if you see that this is becoming more efficient, more used, it's because it's the future. So you can either jump in and try to make yourself useful with the tools that are present, or you can just complain and you won't get anywhere.
Do you have any recommendation if someone in your field are looking for AI related tools and skills? What do you think is good for them to learn?
Say I'm still learning because I have been quite busy in the past, and so I've used the basics. But I would say I've been recommended many times Anara as a scientist because it allows to like read papers, and it gives you recommendations of papers you should read if you have read
Could you
this.
pronounce it again for us? What was the name?
Anara, so Anara.
Okay, perfect.
I think that one I haven't played as much as possible with it, but I've heard it's quite great for research. And then I have used the basics. I use Perplexity quite a lot, which is kind of like ChatGPT, but it gives you citations, which I find quite great to know, to make sure that if I'm asking information, it's not coming from nowhere, and that
It's not a
yeah,
hallucination or
yeah. um, but I think I still need to get more used to it. I think there are also a few tools for bioinformatics that help you, for example, better program and stuff like that. But I need to get more used to them as well.
so you're also planning to get into bioinformatics.
A little bit. I think you never know what the future departs, and it's good to have diverse skills.
That's true. And I think bioinformatics will play a huge role in the future. So if you can learn it, why not? So Lucia, I'm gonna give you some words and I want you to express your feeling and how do you think about this. So the first word is biology.
The word that comes to mind first is beautiful. I I'm started my studies in biochemistry because I think it's so beautiful to see how something so small makes such a big system and all comes together in like such a precise way. Like I remember when I was, I don't know, 18 or so, I was in my second year of university, and someone said to me, "Ah, no, there's a bug." And I could think only, no, but see, there has two pairs of wings. This is because this gene has been mutated. This is so cool. And, I think biology gives you the opportunity to see beauty in so many places.
That was great definition. Thank you. The second word is Spain, your home country.
Say family. Like it all feels so comfortable. In a way, every time I go to Spain, it's like my home is there, so I get to see my friends that I know since I was a kid, and I get to see my family who also like would support me anywhere. And in a way, it just feels comfortable because it feels like a place where you don't have to prove yourself in a way because you have everyone is everything that you already know, and everything that you know will be there for you.
Yeah, it's your comfort zone somehow. So the last word is Denmark that you did your master there.
I would define it as opportunity. So I think Denmark is such a challenging place to be sometimes because you go there alone, and in a way you are alone. You don't have your family, and you don't have anybody that knows you since you were 3. So, but it's so full of opportunities to grow if you want to. So if you want to learn about something, you contact someone. If you want to work here, you ask people. If you want to study this, you study that. If you want to go see a different place, you go. And it's it's mesmerizing to have such a wide array of possibilities.
Nice. So, how do you think this Lucia we are talking right now is different than the Lucia before immigration, living in her country? And what have you achieved through this journey so far?
I think I've grown a lot. Um, that's that's what happens when you go out of your comfort zone quite a lot. You need to grow and in a way that you didn't think about. So I think one thing that I found before I moved is I just there were so many things that I didn't even consider were gonna happen and that would be challenges. And I remember when I moved here, I was just thinking everything's gonna be great on the first attempt, and I learned to be resilient in a way. So I remember when I moved here that I thought I'm going to have a perfect straight A average without a doubt. I'm gonna have it, and I'm gonna be national champion. Uh, and I'm gonna find a job within a month, and everything's good. I'm going to have so many friends, and everything's gonna work out perfectly. And I think one thing that I learned in this time was to be patient, to be proactive. So change a bit the mindset of because you've done something great, the rest is gonna come, and think more of if this is not working, what can I do to make it work? Because thinking of the things that like think that the world's unfair is not gonna drive you anywhere. So and just like keep trying, try a lot of things and try many times.
That's true. Yeah, immigration comes with a lot of unexpected experiences and challenges. And before leaving your country, you never know what kind of problems you're going to deal with. So, Lucia, if you had a chance to travel in time, 10 years ago to 10 years ago, what would you change in your life? What would you tell to yourself to be more careful?
Nothing. How old I was 10 years ago. I think
Take your time.
in a way I wouldn't say anything because I know I like where I am right now, and I don't think I would have listened when I was 16 to any advice I would have given myself.
Wow.
Um, if I were to be able to make myself listen, I would tell myself to be patient when the challenges arrive. I think at 16 I had it quite easy, in all fairness, because I was in a very comfortable place in my life. I knew what I wanted to study. I've always known that I wanted to do science, and I've always been a good student, which was my only responsibility when I was 16, right? So in a way, at that moment, everything felt very easy and obvious. I would say challenges will arrive, but you just need to keep your calm and think that not everything is as easy as now.
So, do you have any regrets?
I'd say sometimes I've thought about my bachelor's being a mistake in the sense of it was really, really difficult degree, and sometimes I think I could have gotten by with an easier thing and I would have suffered less. But I like the person that I am now, so I wouldn't change a thing.
Nice. Outside of academia, is there any specific hobbies or fun stuff that you like to do?
Oh yes, um, my friends when I was little, they always mocked that I was like Mr. Hobbies, and I would drop all of my things because I had so many things that I wanted to do. Um, I do judo. I'm a black belt in judo, and
Ooh,
I like painting.
okay.
Um, I do. I've done since I was rather small. I really was into like realistic art and very like oil painting and very detailed things. And I really like drawing and cooking and reading. And I also was a dancer for some years. So quite a lot of things.
So, so at the same time, you're doing judo and you're also into art. How this works? They look so in an opposite way, or
Yeah, I think it's good to use different parts of your brain is how I used to define it. So I think for me, judo was a great way of reminding myself that like there's always ways to improve. So judo is a very special sport because you can practice for your whole life and you never really master it. And especially I do a lot of things, but I'm not that good at sports, so I never master it. And it's great to have an opportunity to just like work on something that you just can keep working and can always find a way of improving. And for me, it was also great just because I had a lot of friends there that I wouldn't have met otherwise, and it was a really great way for me to go out of my comfort zone and every day be reminded that in a way there's something about falling many times that reminds you that you're not perfect, but that's okay, and you just have to get up and keep going. And it's really good way of focusing because you have to be exactly at the moment and it's very present. And that's just for me it was like meditation every day. So I would just go every day after class and train there, and then I would go home and I would be exhausted, but I would be so happy. So it just like for me it just paid off very well. And then painting is a different thing for me. It's when you have so many emotions you want to let them out, then you paint, I think. I don't paint every day because, well, I don't have the time. But it allows you, instead of judo focuses on the present, and I think for me painting focuses on everything else. So you can put a lot of past feelings that you want to kind of express and let go, or even aspirations or worries, and you can just put it there and leave it there. And it
nice,
allows you to have a vision of every time point.
nice. What do you like the most about yourself?
I would say how hardworking I am. I think it's difficult to explain without sounding very braggy, but I think I'm very. It's very difficult to tire me to the point that I say never again. So I've always tried to do different things, and I'm very ambitious. And I moved to a different country, and I tried so many different hobbies, and it all involves work, and you just have to to be positive about it. And like for me, the thing that I like most about myself is that I like all of the things that I do. I love studying. I love research. I love doing sports. I love painting, and it's great to like what you're doing.
So, which one do you think is more important, being hardworking or being intelligent?
Say I would say that the answer that is most productive is being hardworking, because if I tell you it's being intelligent and someone doesn't feel intelligent, that doesn't help them really. Um, but I think it is true that intelligence is something that can not determine but influence how you can do in many fields, and it's not easy to do work in a field that you're just no good at. So I'm not gonna say it's not important at all, but there is nothing like putting hours of work. And it's just if you like what you're doing you'll end up learning.
Right. So are you a type of person who has a detailed plan and micro plan? Are you micro planner, or you just have a one general schedule plan for your week or for your day and trying to catch it? Not specifically this minute I'm gonna do this, and that kind of detailed oriented.
I think I do a lot of plans, but I not always follow them, and I try to be mindful about the fact that it was impossible from the beginning. Um, but I like having a checklist of everything that I need to do on a day, and try to be able to check them out, and if not, like establish a plan on how will I do this tomorrow. And in a way, I don't even know if in a way it's all in my mind. So I always know that at I don't know, at 6:30 p.m. I have to go to this place. So it's in, you just figure out ways of setting things up first.
Right.
But I do a lot of plans. That is true. I just sometimes you just cannot do all of them, but you try.
That's true. So is there any specific skill or technique or tool that you can tell students to make them to become more efficient?
Traditional person. So for me, what has worked best as a student is to make myself a book of every subject. So instead of just reading the books, I write with my words everything. Um, and like for me, it being able to express what you want before someone asks you helps you a lot. But it really depends. It also takes a lot of time. I know. But I would say, yeah, people underestimate the importance of going to class. I really like going to class. People underestimate the importance of writing things out and thinking before you're asked, and I think it's really important.
Do you have any role models in your life?
Yes, I would say. This is gonna sound like quite a cliche, but my mom is my greatest role model because she is the most hardworking person I know. She she's a prosecutor, but on her free time she has written 12 books on completely different things because every summer she writes a different book, and every weekend she's working on some blog, novel, a new activity, new hobby, and it's such an example to see a person that's so passionate about what they're doing that is so happy about involving every minute that she has into doing more things.
Lucia, what do you think can make student life to be more easier for students?
Easier in what sense?
We have a lot of challenges, we have a lot of deadlines, a lot of pressure for passing the courses. How we can make those days to go smoother, easier, with less trauma or tragedies?
Yeah. Okay. I think it may depend on the person. I would say one thing that really helps is having a good support system. So if you have friends that are doing the same subjects, etc., than you, that really helps. Because even if you are struggling with someone, you always have someone to ask for help. And if you are a person that tends to forget deadlines, it's always great to hear someone say, "I'm struggling with this paper or this report or this whatever." So I would say that is the biggest student life hack that I can think of. And other than that, is plan yourself in a way that you give yourself free time, because I think a lot of times people don't do work at the beginning and they procrastinate and then they say I can do this at the last moment, and I think your life would be so much better if from the beginning you said I'm refuse to work on the weekends and I refuse to work after 7 p.m. And then you would just figure out how to do it beforehand.
That's true. Yeah, I agree with that. And one question about the countries you had experience uh, about the work-life balance. Which country has the best and the worst work-life balance so far you had experience of living there? Were they
Say
different?
Spain has the worst. Uh, uh, I'm sorry. I have no doubt about it. When I was studying in Spain, there was almost no one that could work at the same time. Um, it was it was very brutal. I remember every day we finished at like 6 or 7 p.m. just the classes, and then you still had to study, and then it was all of the weekend, and you never really could relax because if you were out 1 week, that's impossible to get back on track. And for even for work, there's there's so many people that feel super stressed with work, and there's this mentality that if you're not happy with what you're doing, you will find someone else, and that just makes you feel very demotivated. I think Scandinavia is very different from that. Here, people feel very, very appreciated, and people still have time for themselves. So I would say when you're studying and working at the same time, you have less time, obviously, because you're doing a full-time studies plus a part-time job, and that's more hours than just one thing. But still, I could see that it's a different path. Like it's everything goes on a different rhythm. You are given more independence, which means that it could work badly and you could just fail everything. But if you they just trust you that you will organize yourself, and if you organize yourself, everything's just more relaxed. And having the opportunity to organize yourself is what makes you able to say, I'm not gonna work on Sundays, or I'm not going to work past 8 p.m.
So I have one more question left. Two more questions, sorry. The first one is are you happy? And what is your definition for happiness?
I've thought about this a lot during the last years. I am happy because I am starting to define happiness as content with the good things. So, in a way, happiness is also about trying not to focus on the bad things and trying to really enjoy the good things that happen. And I think I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky, first of all, that I was able to find a group of friends and a degree that I like, and amount of people that are great and I have learned so much from. And I'm happy that I have found a hobby that I like and that I live in a place that is fantastic. So I try to be grateful for the things that I can. And of course, there are days that are challenging. You just need to. I think happiness is about accepting that those days come and that there's still something better the next day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there any advice that you want to give the students who are listening and watching us?
Um, yes, if you can go abroad, it's a fantastic, fantastic experience, and it sounds very daunting at first, but you will find so many people that are like you will find so many new things and new ways of thinking, and it's just there's nothing to make you grow like going abroad and just figuring things out for yourself. Like you will do great.
Thank you. That was great advice. I loved it. Thank you, Lucy, again for being here today, and thank you for you watching us. And yeah, we will come back with great videos soon. Take care and have a great time. And thank you again. Bye bye. Take care of yourself.